Hello and welcome to this learning module. In today's session, we're going to discuss the assessment and care of patients with special healthcare challenges and needs. This video is designed to supplement any readings or coursework assigned by your instructor. Developmental disabilities are a broad category of lifelong conditions that arise before adulthood. They impact physical, learning, language, or behavioral development, often including disorders such as autism spectrum disorder, cerebral palsy, and epilepsy. Intellectual disabilities are a subset of developmental disabilities that specifically involve limitations in intellectual functioning, such as reasoning, learning, and problem solving, and adaptive behaviors needed for daily living. While all intellectual disabilities are developmental in origin, not all developmental disabilities involve cognitive impairment. Some primarily affect motor skills, communication, or sensory processing. Understanding this distinction helps guide appropriate assessment and care. Autism, also known as autism spectrum disorder, is a range of neurodevelopmental conditions that are characterized by impaired social interaction, verbal and nonverbal communication disorders, and restricted and repetitive behavior. It is due to a combination of genetic and environmental factors. Patients may not be able to communicate with you. They may also have a difficult time reading facial expressions. Autistic patients may have altered sensation and may also be prone to seizures. They are also prone to positional asphyxia. It's always a good idea to enlist the assistance of a caregiver when caring for a patient with autism. When performing an assessment, providing emergency care, or transporting a patient with autism, some recommendations are: move slowly during the physical exam. Begin at the feet and work your way to the head. Explain what you plan to do in advance of performing the assessment or procedure. Explain where you are going, who will be with the patient, and what they will see. Speak using simple terms and language and use a calm voice. Give the patient plenty of time to respond to your questions. It's not uncommon for there to be up to a 4-second delay after asking a question. Consider the unexpected with children who have autism spectrum disorder. They often ingest unusual things and get into things without their caretaker realizing it happened. Ask the caregiver about the patient's functional level. This enables you to ask appropriate level questions and provide appropriate level explanation. Stuffed animals and other things used to calm children may also be helpful with older adults who have autism. If the caregiver is present, allow them to ask the questions related to your assessment. If possible, allow the caregiver to ride with the patient in the back of the ambulance. Do not assume that a nonverbal patient who doesn't appear to be listening doesn't understand what you're saying. Lastly, a nonverbal patient might be able to write or type a response to your questions. Down syndrome, also called trisomy 21, is a condition where a person is born with an extra copy of the 21st chromosome. People with Down syndrome can have physical problems as well as intellectual disabilities. Every person born with Down syndrome is different. As many as 40% of Down syndrome patients may have heart conditions and hearing and vision problems. Bag mask ventilation can be challenging in Down syndrome patients due to a large tongue and a small oral and nasal cavity. A jaw thrust maneuver and/or nasopharyngeal airway may be necessary to secure a patent airway. Even though patients with Down syndrome might act and look similar, each person has different abilities. People with Down syndrome usually have an IQ in the mildly to moderately low range and are slower to speak than other children, so we need to allow extra time for them to answer our questions. Communicating with visually impaired patients may be challenging. It's important to understand that some patients can see shadows and shades while others may be completely blind. Be sure to explain everything you are going to do so the patient knows what to expect. When assisting a visually impaired patient to the stretcher or to your ambulance, make sure you stay in close physical contact with them so they don't lose their balance. Be sure to bring assistive devices such as a walker or cane with the patient to the hospital. If the patient has a service animal, the dog should be transported with the patient to the hospital. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, A service animal is defined as a dog that has been individually trained to do work or perform tasks for an individual with a disability. The task or tasks performed by the dog must be directly related to this person's disability. This means that the dog must be trained to take a specific action when needed to assist the person with a disability. A seeing eye dog is an example of a service animal. The ADA makes a distinction between psychiatric service animals and emotional support animals. If the dog has been trained to sense that an anxiety attack is about to happen and take a specific action to help avoid the attack or lessen its impact, that would qualify as a service animal. Be sure to know your agency's policies and procedures for dealing with service animals at the scene of a call. Similar to visual impairment, hearing impairment can range from mild hearing loss to total deafness. If a family member knows sign language, we can use them as an interpreter. An EMT can best assess a patient who is hearing impaired by first establishing a clear line of communication using a combination of visual and technological aids. It's important to face the patient directly at eye level and use gestures, facial expressions, and pointing to convey messages effectively. The EMT should speak clearly and normally, avoiding shouting, which can distort speech and may be painful for some patients with certain hearing conditions. Consider the use of written communication, either through a notepad, a whiteboard, or using the Notes app on a smartphone to communicate with your patient. Hearing aids are devices that make sound louder and can improve hearing and listening ability. If your hearing impaired patient has a hearing aid, encourage them to use it. Also, bring the device with the patient to the hospital. These devices are very expensive, so be sure to let the emergency department staff member that's taking a report know that your patient has one. Also, document in your patient care report whether you left the device with the patient or with an emergency department staff member. Cerebral palsy, or CP, is an umbrella term for motor impairments that result from brain abnormalities that arise early in development. Most people with CP have difficulty controlling muscle function and may also present with muscle stiffness and contractions in their joints. In some cases, there may be cognitive impairment and communication difficulty that accompanies the motor impairment. The symptoms of CP vary from person to person. A person with severe CP might need to use special equipment to be able to walk, or might not be able to walk at all and need lifelong care. A patient with mild CP, on the other hand, might walk a little awkwardly, but might not need any special help. CP does not get worse over time, but the symptoms can change over a person's lifetime. We should monitor the CP patient's airway closely and be prepared to suction as necessary. Underdeveloped limbs are prone to injury, so extra padding may be necessary to ensure comfort and safety. Never try to force an extremity into a particular position. When transporting a patient with CP, we want to be sure to bring any special padding, braces, or assisted devices with us to the hospital. Spina bifida is a condition that affects the spine and is usually apparent at birth. It is a type of neural tube defect. Spina bifida can happen anywhere along the spine if the neural tube does not close all the way. When the neural tube doesn't close all the way, the backbone that protects the spinal cord doesn't form and close as it should. This often results in damage to the spinal cord and nerves. The symptoms of spina bifida vary from person to person. Most people with spina bifida are of normal intelligence. Some people need assistive devices such as braces, crutches, or wheelchairs. They may have learning difficulty, urinary and bowel problems, lower extremity paralysis, or hydrocephalus, which is that buildup of excess CSF in the brain. Their severity depends on the size and location of the opening in the spine and whether part of the spinal cord and nerves are affected. When preparing a patient with spina bifida for transport, ask the caregiver or patient how to best move and package them for transport. We may be called to care for patients who are paralyzed from a traumatic injury or stroke. These individuals are generally unable to move one or more parts of their body. Paraplegia is a form of paralysis that affects both legs. If only one leg were paralyzed, then it would be referred to as monoplegia of the leg. Tetraplegia is a form of paralysis that affects both arms and both legs. Quadriplegia is another term for tetraplegia, but most healthcare providers are now using the term tetraplegia. Depending on the severity of the tetraplegia causing injury, the patient might use assisted breathing devices like a ventilator. Patients with paralysis may have normal sensation or can have hyperesthesia, which causes an increase in sensitivity. In addition to possibly being ventilator dependent, patients may also rely on other types of technology too. Be sure to ask how to best move and package them for transport. Be sure to bring wheelchairs and other assistive devices, including computers, with the patient to the hospital. Bariatrics is the field of medicine concerned with the health of individuals with obesity, focusing on treatments such as diet, exercise, and weight loss surgery. Prehospital bariatric care focuses on safely assessing, treating, and transporting patients with obesity by adapting standard EMS practices to meet their unique anatomic and physiologic needs. Bariatric patients may present challenges such as difficulty with airway management, altered vital signs, reduced mobility, and increased risk of respiratory compromise. EMTs and paramedics must use specialized equipment, including reinforced stretchers, wider wheelchairs, bariatric belts, and additional personnel for lifting to prevent injury to both patient and providers. Clear communication, respectful care, and attention to patient dignity are crucial, as bariatric emergencies often require creative problem solving, careful coordination, and precise movement planning to ensure safe and effective transport. According to the National Human Trafficking Resource Center, human trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery in which traffickers use force, fraud, or coercion to control victims for the purposes of engaging in commercial sex acts or labor services against their will. It's possible that we might be the one and only opportunity to save an individual from their traffickers. As such, it's important to understand common characteristics of trafficking victims. Victims may be male or female, and adults or children. Many times they are runaways, homeless youths, or victims of domestic and sexual assault. When caring for a suspected victim of human trafficking, our primary role is to prioritize immediate medical care and safety, transport the patient alone if safe to do so, and discreetly notify the receiving hospital and law enforcement. The goal is not to investigate, but to ensure the patient is safely transferred to an environment where they can receive appropriate care and resources. Common settings we may encounter human trafficking are prostitution rings and escort services, the pornography industry, strip or exotic dance clubs, massage parlors, agricultural farms or ranches, factories or sweatshops, hotels, nail salons, or home cleaning services. They may also be found as domestic labor used for cleaning, childcare, or elder care. You should be suspicious if you notice that the patient is accompanied by someone who insists on providing all the information and doesn't allow the patient to talk. Additionally, human trafficking victims may not know a reference to the day of the week, time, or even where they're located because they're shuffled around quite a bit. Many traffickers convince their victims that if they do escape and report them, they will find and harm the victim and/or their family members. They use these threats of violence to control their actions. We need to provide a safe environment for these patients, as well as provide emergency care for any illness or injury that the patient may present with. We need to ensure that EMS transports this patient to the hospital. Involving law enforcement is going to be necessary to protect us and our patient. It's important to notify the receiving emergency department of our suspicion as well, so they can involve social services and law enforcement as necessary. Poverty and homelessness are deeply interconnected social challenges where limited financial resources, unstable living conditions, and a lack of access to basic needs creates a cycle that is difficult to break. Individuals experiencing poverty often struggle to afford housing, healthcare, food, and transportation, and when costs exceed income, homelessness can result. Homelessness, in turn, worsens poverty by limiting opportunities for work, education, safety, and long-term health. These conditions are often compounded by structural factors such as increasing housing costs, inadequate social support systems, and barriers to mental health and substance use treatment. Together, poverty and homelessness create vulnerabilities that affect individuals, families, and communities. EMS response to these individuals requires a compassionate, safety conscious, and resource informed approach that recognizes the unique challenges faced by people living without stable housing. Homeless patients may have complex medical and social needs, including chronic illness, mental health conditions, substance abuse disorders, exposure related injuries, and limited access to routine care. EMTs should prioritize building rapport, maintaining dignity, and conducting thorough assessments as symptoms may be masked by environmental stress or lack of baseline information. Scene safety and environmental awareness are also important, as care often occurs in unpredictable settings such as encampments, abandoned buildings, or public spaces. Effective EMS care includes not only addressing immediate medical needs, but also connecting patients with available community resources whenever possible. EMS care for patients with special health challenges requires adapting standard assessment and treatment practices to meet unique medical, developmental, or functional needs while prioritizing safety, dignity, and effective communication. These individuals may have chronic conditions, cognitive or developmental disabilities, sensory impairments, or mobility limitations that influence both their presentation and the type of care they require. Pre-hospital professionals should take extra time to understand the patient's baseline status, involve caregivers whenever possible, and modify techniques such as communication methods, physical exams, and patient packaging to ensure appropriate and respectful care. This brings us to the end of this learning segment. If you have any questions or would like to know more about the topics discussed in this session, please consult your textbook.